Hey, welcome to the Inspiring Possibilities podcast. It's Julian, and today I have an amazing guest, Fendi. Fendi, what up, brother? Welcome.
Appreciate you having me.
All right, so Fendi is my neighbor. He's somewhere over there, north of me. But we're doing this virtual. So Fendi, I know we've been trying to connect this for a while. You have an amazing story, from multiple side. I share your story so many times with people, about like, man, how could somebody transition from this sport to this sport and go at this level? I'm like, how is that even possible? To be able to transition, like this. So in a minute or so, give them a quick little bio of who Fendi is.
Right. So born and raised here in Houston, Texas. I grew up playing basketball. Was like my favorite sport playing, and so grew up as a basketball player. And in my childhood, went through some trauma. Was kidnapped by my biological mother at a young age, at 6. Parents were going through a divorce. Mom was really trying to, flee away from the what you call the custody battles, and so
Yeah.
my mom took me, and we were on the run. My dad luckily got custody of me. He got me back a few months later, and he put me in sports. He put me in basketball. That was the sport that he put me in. That was the sport that I loved, and to kind of help deal with the trauma
Yeah.
that I experienced, from the kidnapping. And man, I never looked back. And so went to University of Arizona, played basketball on a full ride scholarship. But somewhere along the line during my senior year, I had some people like, "Hey man, I know you play basketball, but you look like a tight end. Have you thought about playing football?" And I had never thought about playing football. I played in middle school like 1 year. But after that, man, I was all hoops, and the possibility and the reality of actually becoming a football player became more and more real. I gave it a shot. Walked on the football team at U of H. Was there for a year, and bro, I made it to the NFL the next year. And so it was crazy, man.
Became
Just,
Hall of Fame U of H in 1 year.
man, that was probably a little more than 60 seconds. And that's not the whole bio, but that's the story of the transition for sure.
That is beautiful. And for I know you guys will see the video. Some of you guys are just listening. Fendi might not look that big, but Fendi, how tall are you again?
Man, I'm 6'6".
There you go. You're a good little 6'6". So that
6'6".
that is a legit height to be able to transition to football. To be 6'6", athletic with big hands, like that is
It helps, man.
that, that is
It
something.
helps. It helps. God definitely blessed me with those traits, man. So I'm not as athletic as I used to be,
Yeah,
but
we've seen.
there was a time when your boy was.
I know, right? I've seen some little videos. I've seen some little videos. I'm like, Fendi is lefty, a little lefty, but a whole lot of
Oh
dunk,
yeah,
a whole lot, which is the thing, right? When you're a dunker and you get older, you're no longer like the competitive advantage that you have of just like jumping out the gym and dunking on people and all that kind of stuff is just like now you're like, oh man, you can't. You're no longer the same player. I'm a
it's
shooter. Doesn't matter as I get older. I've seen like my coaches were shooters, just like you can still shoot. Like shooting is this weird skill that doesn't matter how old you get. The person that was a shooter is always a shooter. You become more of a set shot, but
yeah.
the trigger is quicker, the release is faster, the arc it might be a little higher now because you can't jump as high as you used to, but it's like always there. So when is the last time you play basketball?
Man, honestly, man, the last time I hooped, like for real, over a year ago.
Mm.
I love basketball. I still love basketball. It's like basketball is just the sport. It's the thing that it's like it's therapeutic. It's just there's a love for the game that I still have even at this big age of 37. It's the same love I had when I was 7, and
Mm.
I can't play as much anymore just because of the injuries that I experienced, in my professional career in the league. Knees start swelling up and all type of stuff. But man, I shoot around all the time. My kids love to play basketball, and so we shoot around, man. But yeah, like to your point, man, if you can shoot, you can always play.
No,
You know what I'm saying? The name of the game, you got to put the ball in the hole. So if you can shoot, you're always someone that can play the game. If you can score the bucket, and so I haven't played in a while, man. But I like to shoot around, and hopefully,
Yeah, no, we're
I,
trying to connect for you to come and play. So
yeah.
one of these Sundays, we'll be there. We'll get some footage. We'll get some footage of you
If my
playing
knees
now.
don't swell up, bro, I'm telling you, my knees will literally swell up, man. Like that's the thing.
Mm,
If my knees wouldn't swell up, I'd play all the time. You know what I'm saying? I'll be dropping little videos on my Instagram.
that's
They be
what
like, "Hey man, come play
that's
in
what I
this
told
league. Come play
people.
in that league."
Look,
I'm like, bro,
I've shared with my son. I've shared with my son. I'm like, my era, which I'm an '80s baby, was all
for sure.
about jumping. It was vertical jump. It was air alert, jump soul. It was like the whole era of like it was about can you jump? And I'm like, and as much as I did all the jump vertical program, air alert one, air alert two, jump souls, I got the Ray Allen calves and I could do the quick jump, but I'm like, I could just never. That never happened. It just never happened. But I'm like, everybody else that spent all that time jumping, like now all their knees as a dog, as a dog,
Yeah.
everybody's knees is like, and my knees, man, my knees, my knees
Bro,
feel some type of
you
way.
remember those ankle weights that they used
Yeah,
to tell
cool.
you to walk around on your tippy toes, wear the
Yeah,
ankle weight,
yeah. Steve
jump
Francis.
over ankle weights.
Steve
Bro, the
Francis.
damage that you're doing to your ankles and your toe flexion, like the stuff we was doing, we ain't know. There was no true science behind it. It was just like, oh, just walking your tippy toes all day if you want hops. Wear ankle break, wear jump soles. Bro, it's like you're so imbalanced. It's just like, bro, what was we doing?
Yeah,
So yeah, man.
there's no the science was not really there. So okay, so transitioning into from sports, and then now your career ended, and then what did you do next? Because I know you have the fitness business, and then you have the speaking. So talk to me about
Yeah.
those. Like, how did it came in?
So it was hard, man. Like being an athlete, most of your life, when you're training to play at the professional ranks, or just
Yeah.
you've always been on a team, or you've been in the sports environment, when it's over, it's like you've been doing this for the last 15, 20 years. Like, what am I going to do? You
Right.
don't really recognize the skill sets or the lessons or the talents that come from playing
Right.
sports. You just look like, oh, all I did was, shoot a ball and play defense and catch a ball and score touchdowns or what have you. But there's actually a lot of intangibles that are translatable from sports to corporate or from sports to entrepreneurship. Being able to work, with a multitude of personalities, being able to lead your team, lead in the locker room, being able to organize and strategize. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of the same skill sets that are translatable. You just have to shift the perspective. And so when you look at, okay, how can I use the skills that I learned in sports,
Yeah.
learn football, learn basketball, and now make them applicable to, the front office, or make them applicable for an organization and offer some type of value, the work ethic, the discipline. I mean, there's just so many different things that are translatable that at first sight, you don't really see that
Yeah.
because you think about what you're doing physically. And so it was tough. My career ended on injury. Ruptured my quadricep tendon with the Jaguars in 15, and I was just first trying to get healthy so I could walk.
Yeah.
So I spent that took about a year and some change just to get healthy and walk and figure out what I was going to do. And being an athlete, fitness was just something that was always close by. Just with the discipline that it takes with nutrition, working out, and developing a love for working out because how I felt and how you look, and especially being in a pro ranks, you have to be in good shape. And
Yeah.
so that just seemed like the most natural progression from like, okay, still trying to figure out what I was going to do, if it was going to be coaching or training or, whatever. And so I got into training. And just looked at it, took it as an opportunity to pour into people.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to pour into people. I've always been that person who wants to encourage, inspire, cheer people on. That's always been my personality. And so going from, leaving the league and getting into a space to where I can help people achieve a goal or help people do something that they don't think they can do within themselves, like that was really gratifying for me. Right. And so we talked about, fitness and helping people and then speaking. And even in speaking, it's the same foundation. I'm pouring into people. I'm speaking life into people. I'm encouraging people. the business has shifted, but the foundation and the principles remain the same. I'm pouring
Mm.
into people, helping people see themselves in a way that they may not recognize, and that's the ultimate, most gratifying feeling for me is being able to inspire somebody, empower somebody, encourage somebody to become a better version of themselves.
That's awesome. And so, kind of transitioning there, because both you and I, me instead of leading, movement, the dad, the myth, the legend, just getting entrepreneur dad to be great dads, as the core, because there's such an impact whenever you can be the one inside of your lineage to shift things, inside of
Absolutely.
like the anger, the anxiety, the depression, all that stuff that sometimes we inherited, from others. Whether it's not always the dad, sometimes it's the mom or the grandma, for the men, to get,
Yeah.
and then we're transferring that to our kids if we don't transform it in us. And so both you and I are very intentional about like our kids and kind of like what we do with our kids, how we raise our kids, what model we want to give and show them that it is to be a husband, that it is to love your wife, to show the love, but also to have the discipline and protecting the container of the house, that we have. So I have 6 kids. You don't quite have 6 kids yet. So talk to me about that. Talk to me about that life of being an entrepreneur, but at the same time managing and balancing this entire mini kingdom that you got at home.
It's not an easy one, bro. I mean, I have 2 kids. I don't have 6. I have 2. And it's like, I used to always say, like, man, I just need to find balance. I need to find balance. I need to find balance. But what I've come to realize, Julian, is like, there's no such thing as balance. It's, what are you prioritizing in that season or in that time? And whatever it is that you are prioritizing in that season or that time, you make sure you're present for that. I've learned about boundaries. I've learned, it's like being a husband, trying to provide for your family, trying to be present with your children, engage with them. It's not just my responsibility to just teach them, but it's also my responsibility to create their childhood experience. You know what I'm saying? And like as a father, and I kudos to my wife Stephanie, man, because she is really, really intentional about things that we do with our children, the activities that we bring to them, the places that we take them to, even the way we speak to them. You know what I'm saying? Like letting them know that hey, we want you guys to be able to express yourselves. Like let's communicate, let's have a conversation. Let's work through those feelings. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we feeling this way? What happened? As opposed to just like, shut up before I slap you on the butt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different time. And yeah, man, I just think it's not really about balance. It's just about creating boundaries and being present. I want to make sure that when my kids are at school, I'm making sure that I'm making the most of my time with things I need to do from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also, as a husband, make sure I'm speaking my wife's love language and making her a priority in that time. And then
Yeah.
also when the kids are home, I'm being intentional about, doing things with my children, taking them outside or taking them to the park or playing with them or being engaged with them or watching a movie. And so it's not really balanced. It's just about
Yeah.
prioritizing and being intentional for the time that it's given that I have. If that
No, I
makes
love it.
sense.
I think exactly boundaries and productivity on the right thing, right? Which I think kind of like part of like your message instead of like the core, right? Which you and I connected on that a little bit, which is instead of my coaching, we talk about the core four: body, being, balance, and business, right? Where the
Mm-hmm.
goal is to be able to move all four of them at the same time,
Yeah.
which is very hard for people to even mentally understand the level of discipline, intentionality, rhythm, tracking that is required to see where am I off, because there's always going to be a place where you're not going to be great, but it's the
Yeah.
acknowledgement and the awareness that like, oh man, I fell short here, so I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do this, but my pursuit is the same.
I
I want to
love
be
it.
great as a instead of my body that is weaponized, that I have the energy, that I don't have pain, that this is what the standard of a dad bod looks like, and not, well, you know what I mean? What others would look like, oh, this is a dad bod. Like, no, that's not. The standard is this. This is the standard in my kingdom. This is the standard. Then with the relationship with my wife, the daily deposit to my wife, daily deposit to my kids, and having 6 does not take me away from daily deposit to each one. And then making sure that I follow God's purpose. Like, do I have the dialogue? or do I try to stay inside of like my own head, my own thoughts, and just with coaches, right? And then finally is the providing. Can I provide for my family, and can I protect, like, instead of business, meaning leading loudly, proudly, and consistently. That means like you have to hear me, you have to see me, and I have to be there again and again and again and again. Where most
Yeah.
men hide when things don't go well. It's like, oh man, you know what? I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna move away for a little bit. I'll be back once I get my shit figured out. Versus
Yeah.
like, then you miss life. So talk to me about that place of being alone. I think as a man and as an entrepreneur, especially as a former athlete, you did at a high level. There's this place of, I know I experienced it, where every single man was my competition. And only a few years ago, probably 2021, that I started to shift that narrative, because I felt like if you and I see each other, I'm just thinking like, how can I dominate? How can I, if you were in a fight, like how can I fight you? You a little taller, not how are your stance, how are your knees? I might just kick you in the knee. Right, like my head, I'm just thinking like, you're my competition. How do I beat you? Because I just didn't trust men in general, because it was always like, you're trying to get something from me, or you're my competition. There's not enough space on the team where I play basketball. Five spots, and if I'm a shooting guard, I'm only going to be two guard or three. Like, I'm not going to be the point guard. That requires a different level of skills that I don't have, and so
Yeah.
that means that I know my competition. And now in the business world, you're approaching with that same level, and so you're feeling kind of like, I don't know that I can be friends with men, because there's always this level of not enough resources. So women are going to be my friends. Women are going to be my coaches. I have this hard time just doing this, but then it pivoted. So what is it for you there? That story about relationship with other guys, and then, the feeling of alone instead of that container of being entrepreneur and dad.
Man, as I've gotten older, my circle of friends have gotten smaller. And because my priorities have shifted,
Fact.
children, family, wife, business, you're growing. And so when I think about the seasons when I am alone, I'm alone strategically because I need to focus on whatever it is that I'm trying to pursue in that season. And so I often find myself alone a lot. I've actually had to do a better job of being more open, being more vulnerable,
Mm.
because I think I get in that athlete mentality. Like, I got the blinders on, I got to
Yeah.
focus, I got to grind, I got to get it, boom, 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 boom. And then you block everybody out, and you're just going, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you just going. And then you look around, and like, you don't even recognize or realize that you haven't been present, you haven't reached out, you haven't, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm actually in the process of becoming more intentional about reaching out to friends and having relationships that aren't just business focused, or
Right.
where I can add value, but they can add value as well. We can pour into each other, we can encourage each other, we can inspire each other. I don't have too many, friendships where I'm like, just to, shoot or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
Right.
hey, if there's a relationship, like, we're gonna push each other. We're gonna make each other better. I'm gonna add value to your life. I'm gonna add value to mine. But man, I'm really being intentional about that. My friend circle, the people that I am speaking to,
Mhm.
the people that I am spending my time with, where it's a friendship, but we're also growing and helping each other become better men.
No, absolutely. I think that's a. I did a live on that yesterday, because I had a brother that reached out, and he just shared where he was. How, like financially, what was happening, and it was wife what was happening, and just the level of coming in and the level of release, right? And my question a lot of time we talk about is three things: like release it, like the ego, the emotions, the feelings, all the stuff that you keep in your head, you're trying to troubleshoot. Because most men, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to troubleshoot everything here
Yeah,
before it comes out, right? So like release it, then be seen. That means like if I release it with a group of men, I'm seen, I'm acknowledged, I'm witnessed, I'm viewed, and there's power in being witnessed. Like way back when, with tribes and in groups of warriors together, it's like you had to be witnessed, and there's a power
yeah,
of the collective being witnessed. So like, I see you, brother. I see what you're doing. Like, I notice you,
yeah,
because there's still this place as a man is just like you want to be witnessed. It's not out of ego. It's just like it's just kind of what it is, you know. And then is the don't hide, because oftentimes it's just like the man is going to hide, and he's going to hide by lying. Hey, things are great, man. Things are great when things are really bad. Or hide because it's like, oh yeah, man, I'm figuring it out. You just didn't figure it out. To get to the place of like, hey, my wife just served me papers, or she just want to move out for a little bit, right? And it's this level of shame and guilt, that comes in because you're thinking of like, oh man, I'm repeating my dad, or I'm repeating my mom, or I'm repeating, And so getting to this place of like, one of the number one thing that a man can do is just share with another man what's the real facts, the raw feelings with it, like with just no filter.
Yeah,
Especially as an entrepreneur, whenever we lead, because the higher you go, the less people relate to you.
yeah, yeah,
That is just fact. It becomes like, I don't think you can relate. You know what I mean? Like, because you're like, a W-2 employee cannot relate with an entrepreneur. It's just very hard because our
yeah,
freedom is different.
yeah,
Like the way we structure things is different. Somebody that is a solopreneur versus somebody that has like 14, 16 people under, that is responsible for the payroll, very different level of, decisions,
yeah.
that is required. So for you, whenever you're thinking of this and you have two boys and you're intentional about leading, what do you want them to get from you to be able to, because one thing we know is like they're going to be young men. We don't know whether or not they're going to make it to the league, whatever league that is, NBA, MLB, NFL. Like the percentage is so tiny, and the percentage of even staying is even smaller. But we
Yeah.
know that they're going to, by the grace of God, being young men. And so, what it is that you want them to get from you?
For me, I want them to first treat their mother right. Like
Mm,
that's like treat your mama right, right? And a big part of that is on how I treat her and how they see me treat her, how I greet her, how I talk to her, how I love on her. Like treat that's the first thing. Like your mom will always be your mom. Treat your mother right, and so that's really big for me, man. I mean that's the first thing to come to mind. But also to be a man of honesty and integrity, a man of a character, a man with work ethic that we don't have our hands out, that they understand the value of putting forth the effort towards something.
mhm.
I also want them to express themselves, to be able to articulate their feelings, to not feel like it's not okay to cry or it's not okay to to be to be in their feelings. Like I want them to be able to communicate that. I never want them to be in a position to where they can't speak for themselves.
Hmm.
And so that's really big for me. I'm always talking to them, reading to them, having like conversations with them. You know what I'm saying? Appropriate conversations, but I'm challenging them in a way to where I want to hear them articulate themselves.
Right.
Um, and so I want them to get that from me, and that there's no handouts, bro. Like anything that you want that's worth fighting for, you're going to have to put the work in, and it's not always a guarantee that you'll be successful. But there is a lesson in the experience, and so just the other day, what was going on? My son was like, "I want to quit," and I was like, "What? What were we doing?" We were doing something. I can't remember. Maybe we were playing basketball or something. No. We was on a basketball court, but he wanted to catch a football. So we
Mm.
have a backyard, we got grass, and I'm throwing the ball. We've gone from stationary to now running, right? He's like, Dad, I want to run. So I'm throwing an underhand, just so you know what I'm saying, he can catch it, build his confidence up. And he dropped a couple, and he got mad. He was like, I want to quit. I was like, why? Because I'm not catching the ball. I'm like, son, it's okay. Like, you're going to learn to catch the ball by not catching the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, as you see the way that you're dropping the ball or why the ball's not staying in your bread basket, you're going to learn and figure out how to actually, contain the ball. And so I appreciate that you want better for yourself. I appreciate that you're upset because you're not catching the ball, because that means, okay, I'm better than this. I should be
Yeah.
able to do this. That goes over some people's head, right? Like it's just for the simple fact that, hey, I'm upset that I'm not able to do a task that I feel like I should be able to do. Cool. That's cool. But now we're going to learn in the fact that you can't catch the ball because we're going to see what we're doing so we can then implement whatever is needed so you can catch it.
Right.
Just keep going. I got you. And like I got down on one knee and looked him in the eye and I gave him a hug and hit him on the back and was like, hey, let's go. And I just adjusted the way I was throwing the ball to build his confidence back up. We slowed everything down. And that was really powerful, man, because that was a moment where he could have been like, you know what, like this sucks. I want to do this and go do something else. But I
Yeah.
was able to articulate to him that, hey, this is part of the process. We're going to drop some balls sometimes, and that's okay, right? The thing is, let's learn what we're doing so that the next time we can find out why we dropped the ball or what we did different or, hey, my hands weren't together or my eyes weren't on the ball. Just little things like that. And so even a 5-year-old to be able to understand that, man, it's like these are the moments that really make me proud as a father. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. I think those are the beautiful moment, and I think it leads us to kind of this last part, right? As we come to the end of our time together, I'm big on being able to in order for you to become a legend inside of your family tree, you have to be able to write and put your knowledge down for your kids, right? Like I'm blessed right now to have two books out. You are just launching your first one, right? Is that accurate? Is that your first one that is
It's
coming out?
actually my second, and
Nice.
I'm re-releasing my book that I wrote in 2018. But yes, it's my
Okay.
second.
Beautiful. So we already see it. It's just like there's a way that you want your knowledge and your story to be there for people down the line, which is the wildest thing when you think of it. It's just like Fendi right now with two kids, who knows more, has a bunch of other people that are going to come after from this union that you had with Stephanie. There's a
Yeah,
bunch. And so this moment that we have to be able to write our knowledge, our stories, and put them on paper in the book that they can actually have and be like, great grandpa, he actually, here are the stories, here's the core, here are the principles that he said, you should follow, reminding us who we are. Because at some point, something might happen and somebody's going to forget. And it's like, this is who we are. This is where we came from. And this is like the heart of our people, so it doesn't get forgotten. So talk to me about the book that's coming out this month.
man. First off, man, just to even think about it in that way is really dope. Like we say like, hey, I want to be able to put something on paper so I can have something that outlives me. But
Yeah.
to say that my great 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 grandchild will have access to my words in the book is
Wild.
crazy. You know what I'm saying? And so I was just really cool to like hear from that perspective and think about it. But I'm re-releasing my book, man. Transition: One Kid's Bank Shot to the NFL. I originally released it in 2017. The company that published it went under during COVID,
Mm.
and I thought it was appropriate that I re-release it so that I have copies to share. People can buy them. I can edit it. Update some photos, updates the information, and so I'm really excited about the project. It's coming out this month in May, and it'll be on my website, fendispeaks.org. You can also get on Amazon. But yeah, man, it tells my story. It tells my story of how I was able to go from basketball to collegiate football to the NFL, and it also sheds a little bit of light on the experience that I had in my childhood by being
Mm.
kidnapped by my biological mother, going through the CPS system, and then getting back with my father when he was able to get full custody of me. And so yeah, man. I mean, it really chronicles like what I was experiencing at a young age, but also what I was experiencing when I was transitioning sports.
Yeah.
And just to be able to accomplish something like that, man, 1 year in college football and become an NFL draft pick it's crazy. It's God. And so I'm really excited, man, coming out this month, and would love for people to just like tap in and check it out, especially people who have seen the first copy or the first edition, and then they can see the improvements that have been made in the second edition. It's just something I'm really proud of. And so I got some other projects I'm working on, obviously with core principles, and the message that I share to inspire, challenge, and motivate the youth and student athletes all across the country. And yeah, man, it's just more to come.
That's awesome, man, and we'll love to be able to support you in there. So we'll make sure to have the link in the description so people can go and snatch that book.
Appreciate it.
And because I know you've done a 7, no 8 part, I think 8 part video series. or
8-part video
eight
series.
part video series. And so you guys can also check that out when he goes a little bit more, in detail. You can see the feelings and emotions behind the actual stories. And
Yeah.
who knows, one day it might be a documentary that Fendi has on that, because it very much looked like it could be a mini movie. Like
Come on.
it has that flair. It has that flair
Oh,
to
yeah.
get a little
That's it.
Netflix original. Come on
Oh,
now,
man.
Netflix original,
See,
right? So I appreciate you. Give us a parting piece of guidance for any married dad entrepreneur that is trying to be a great dad and is navigating this journey right now of like maybe feeling alone, and in the grind of pursuing and protecting their family, but also being there as a dad and a husband and and all that.
I would say, as a father who is dealing with as a father who's an entrepreneur and really struggling with balance or just time and just how to really navigate, those waters. I would say, man, just keep showing up, but also take the time to be aware of the issues. Listen to your spouse when she's communicating. Assess the situation. Assess how you're spending your time. But you have to make the decision each and every day to show up and become a better version of yourself. You know, get rid of the ego, get rid of the attitude, get rid of the, oh, I'm just trying to provide, let me work. Because here's the thing, I've heard countless men say this. They spend so much time on provision that they end up in a lonely home because they've left
Mm.
their family for work.
Mm.
And so when you say this is who I'm doing it for, really think about, who are you doing it for? Is it your pride? Is it your ego? Is it so that you can get the attaboy? Or is this as a means to provision for your family in a way that keeps the family together, not apart? So
Beautiful, man.
that's
I
all.
love it. Fendi, thank you so much for your
Appreciate you, bro.
time.
Thank you, man.
I know that you're diligent about your time and the containers, so we appreciate you being on the podcast, and
Brother.
we'll talk to you soon, man. Maybe a part two at some point.
Let's
When
get it.
the Netflix original comes out, or us recounting the first time in 1 year that you played basketball to see how that went and the lessons you got.
For sure, bro. I appreciate you, Julian.
Appreciate you.